Okay, welcome to my SketchUp tutorial where I'm going to walk you through exactly how to make your birdhouse for my introductory class. At this point, you already know how to open up SketchUp, so we're just going to go straight over here to Create New, and we're going to create new from feet and inches. So make sure you click on feet and inches, not meters or millimeters. Now, I want to leave this guy up here for a second as a point of reference. We're going to zoom in near the origin, and we're going to kind of look this direction. So the green axis should start to get really small like that. And then we're looking pretty much perpendicular to the red and the blue. Okay, now what we need to do is grab our rectangle tool. You can use R on your keyboard, or you can click over here and press this little button right here. Looks like a rectangle. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys kind of the order, the steps that you always take in SketchUp, okay? Every time you're doing anything with any tool. First of all, select the tool that you want to use. We just did that, right? Now, the next sequence of steps is really important. We're going to make a click, and then we're going to release. Did you hear that on my mouse? I clicked, and then I released. So that's the second step. Third step is that you're going to move in the correct direction. Well, I want my rectangle to come up here like this, so I just move in that direction. Now, I haven't clicked anything yet, and I'm not holding down my button. Very important. Okay, so I move my mouse in the correct direction. Now I'm going to type in the dimensions that I want. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to type in, and I'm just going to give you some example dimensions for this activity today. So follow along. We're going to type in 5 space 1/2 comma, and you can see these showing up in the bottom right hand corner where it says dimensions, right? So I've typed in 5.5 comma 9 and then press enter. And it's going to give you this rectangle in this orientation. Okay, so 5.5 is the width of our boards. You'll be using a fence board to make your birdhouse. It's this wide. And then 9 is the height from the bottom to the top, like that. Okay, so next step we're going to do is using the pencil tool. Let's come over here and click the pencil tool. And we're going to use this pencil tool to kind of put that roof shape or that peak shape up here. So drag your pencil tool over here until you get this pale blue dot that says midpoint. Now we're going to follow the same steps. Okay, we selected our tool. Now we're going to click one time, and that's a click and release. We're not dragging. We like hardly ever drag in SketchUp. Okay, then we're going to bring our pointer over here, and you see it turns red. And I want you to slowly move down until you see that right there, that purple magenta colored line right there. Now, so what we did was we selected our tool, we clicked and release, then we moved our pointer where we wanted it to go. And now we don't have a dimension to type in, but what we will do is go ahead and make our second click. Okay, so the last step of the process is to either press enter or to make your second click. Okay, let's do that one more time on the other side. So I got my tool. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is I click one time and release. I move in the correct direction or exactly where I want it to go. And once I found that, and you'll see here it inferences slightly differently. And now we're going to go ahead and confirm by either pressing enter, or in this case, we're going to do a second click. And there it is. All right. So what we're going to do now is erase what we don't want. So you can go over here and select your eraser tool, or you can press E on your keyboard. And I'm going to actually go ahead and drag this time. This is one of those few cases where it's okay to drag. And I'm just going to drag across these 3 different pieces. And I do want to point out that there are 3 different pieces here. And I'm using my select tool to show you, it kind of makes them blue. So there's that line, there's this plane, and then there's this line over here. So we will go ahead and drag across all 3 of those things, okay? Okie dokie. So now what we have here is a shape, right? It's a 2-dimensional shape. And I'm going to orbit over here so you can see that there's no thickness to it, right? There's a nominal thickness to it just so that we can like see it, right? But in as far as the SketchUp geometry is concerned, there's no thickness here. There's a thickness of 0. So what we need to use is another tool, the push-pull tool, and that's over here. right here where it says push pull, and you can click on this and then select your push pull tool, and then bring that tool over here, and you'll see that this big plane right here that we've created, it kind of gets highlighted in a kind of gray dotted thing. So what we're going to do is click one time and release, move in the correct direction, and now type in this dimension, okay? Type in 1/2. And there's two ways to type this in. You could type in 1/2, and you'll see that show up there in the bottom right-hand field where it says distance, and then I'm going to press return or enter on my keyboard. Okay, so follow those steps, please. Don't do it any other way. Now, go over to my select tool, and by the way, the keyboard shortcut for this tool right here is called your select tool. You want to press the space bar on your keyboard. Okay, now the reason we need to do that is because we're going to select some stuff. Now, this step, guys, is a very important step when you're using SketchUp. It's called making a component. So what we have here right now is a bunch of different things as far as SketchUp is concerned. To you, it might look like one thing, right? You've made a piece of wood. It has a certain dimension. It has a certain thickness to it. But if I click on these different things, you'll see there's a couple different planes I can click on. There's some edges I can click on, these lines right here. But we need to tell SketchUp that this is one single thing. And there's a lot of good reasons to do that, which we'll explain as we go on today. So what I need you to do is triple click 1, 2, 3 on any of the pieces on this geometry here that we just created. And now once you triple click, it should highlight everything that's attached, everything that's touching, okay? And then once you've got everything selected like this, right click and say make component. So it's right there in the middle of the right click menu. It says make component. What you can do at this point once you click that is name it if you want to. I'm not going to name my components today. I'm just going to click OK. But you could name it. That actually is a helpful thing, but we're not going to worry about it for this project. Okay. So now we've made this component. Now we have a point of reference. I'm going to go ahead and hit my select tool, highlight this man with the boots, and I'm going to erase him. Okay. So we are on our way, guys. We're making a birdhouse. Next thing we got to do is make some walls. Okay. So let's go ahead and select our rectangle tool again, or you can press R on the keyboard. And we're going to decide where to start our wall from. Well, I want to start in this bottom corner over here. I'm going to make the height and the thickness of my piece this time, and then we'll extrude it a certain width, okay? So I'm going to do a single click down here. I'm going to move in the correct direction, so about here, right? But now, before I do any other clicks, I'm actually going to go ahead and type in the dimensions that I want, okay? So I want to type in 6, comma, and it needs to be 1/2 inch, but this time I'm going to type in 0.5. So you can see how that looks in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. 6, comma, 0.5, which means 6 inches by 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to press enter, and it's going to show up like this. Now I want you to notice that I am short of this edge right here, and that's on purpose. It's going to be easier to build that way, and it's going to kind of create some airflow through the center of the birdhouse, which is a good thing. Okay, so now I have a 2 dimensions of my wall. Now we need the third dimension, and the third dimension is always going to be that push-pull tool. So I'm going to press P on my keyboard. It's my keyboard shortcut, and then I'm going to select. For some reason, it didn't turn gray just now. It should turn gray on most of your machines. Oh, there it goes. So you see how it kind of highlights in gray this area. So I'm going to do a single click. Then I'm going to pull it in the direction I want it to go. By the way, I could push it in that direction, but I don't want it to go that direction right now. What I need it to do is actually come toward me, because that's the direction I'm going to be modeling my birdhouse. And now I need to type in a certain distance. And in this case, I'm just going to select 8 inches, and there's no particular reason for that. So I press 8 inches and then press enter. Okay. Okay, now notice that you'll see that there's that this is not a component yet. Of course, it's not going to default to being a component. It's going to default to being multiple pieces of geometry. So make sure that you use your select tool, triple click, and then make a component. Okay, I won't do that so slowly anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and speed through the component making process. But I am going to show you one more technique that's important for today, and this is called making a copy. Okay, so we're going to make a copy of this wall, and we're going to make a copy of the front there. Okay, so how do we make a copy? Well, there's a couple of different ways. I'm going to show you how to do it using the move tool. So if you click on the move tool, now we have the move tool selected. All right, you did that. Now, if you pay attention to how my move tool looks right now, because I'm going to press Control. Now, if you're on a Mac, you'll press Option, but if you're on a PC, you'll press Control. So you see if I press, and we're not holding this button, by the way, we're pressing and releasing it. You'll see that the little plus appears on the move tool. So this is where it starts without that plus button, but if you press Control or Option on a Mac, the little plus button appears. Okay, so that's what you want. What that means is now you're in copy mode. This is the easiest way, I think, to make a copy. What you're going to do is then come over to a certain part of the figure you want to copy, and I think it's easier to click on a corner. So I'm going to click on this corner right here because I'm going to take that corner and I'm going to copy a piece to this little corner right here. So it'll make sense when I do it. Here we go. I'm going to click one time and release. Again, we're not dragging. And as I move it, you'll see a new piece has emerged. And I'm going to come all the way to that corner. And it's going to snap to that corner. It's called inferencing. And now I'm going to make my second click. And there we go. It's copied. Easy enough, right? Okay, so let's do the same thing to this other piece, this front piece. So I click back here. Oops, sorry, clicked in the wrong spot. Okay, so actually what you want to do is use your select tool to come back here and select this piece. That'll help SketchUp. Okay, then we're going to go back to our move tool. The keyboard shortcut for that is M. Don't forget to press Control or Option again, and then click back here and move him this way. Make your second click. There you go. All right, if that was too fast for you, just pause the video, watch that again. All right, now I'm going to click on my select tool. I need my select tool because I need to select the front piece. And I need to select it. It's already selected, but what I need to do is right click on it. Right click on one of these pieces. It doesn't matter if it's the front or the back, whatever. You can decide which is the front or which is the back, but you need to make it unique. And that's this option right here, make unique. Now, why do we need to make it unique? Because what we're going to do in a second is put a hole in this piece. We're actually going to put two holes and then a dowel for like a perch. And if we did it, if these pieces were not unique, if they were carbon copies of each other, then whatever we change on one piece will be changed on the other. And we don't want that. We want it to be unique. So our two walls right here, they are exact copies of each other, aren't they? And so if I make a change, and I'm not going to, but if I did make a change to this piece, it would automatically be made to that piece. So if that's not what you want to happen, then you need to make your copies unique. So just remember that. Okay. So let's see. We need to do a floor, and we need to do two roof pieces. Okay, let's do the roof first. That's actually one of the hardest things to do here. So I'm just going to turn it sideways so I can kind of see the model like this. I'm going to select my rectangle tool. Okay, so select your rectangle tool, and now we're going to do our first click up here on the very top of this triangle cutout roof thing. I'm going to do a single click. All right, then I'm going to move across and sort of down like this. And you'll see that I've got a green rectangle. That green rectangle means it's on the green axis and it's coming down like this. Now, the best way that I have found to model a roof at this angle is it doesn't matter where we are in here. I don't really care what your dimension is. We're eventually going to drag it down this direction, but you see if I move off this line, it kind of goes funky on me, okay? So go ahead and just click anywhere in this area, and that's going to put your rectangle here. As long as your components are all made correctly, this will not be a problem. Now, what we need to do is get our push-pull tool, and we're going to kind of work with this, okay? We're going to work this piece a little bit. So go ahead and make your first push-pull click right there and pull it out in this direction. Now type in your dimension, which is 1/2 inch or 0.5. Oh, by the way, make sure that at this point you don't accidentally move your mouse. So I haven't made my second click yet, but I'm going to go and show you a mistake. If I move my mouse, look what happens in the distance field down there in the bottom right. It changed, right? So I'm going to type in again 0.5, right? So now you see it says 0.5, but if I move my mouse, that changes from 0.5 to wherever my mouse is dragging it. So you don't want that, because if you type in your dimension and before you press enter accidentally move your mouse, it will mess you up. Okay, so just be careful of that. So anyways, I need 1/2 inch, so type that in. Now I press enter. There we go. Now obviously I need my roof to come down further, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click here on this plane and drag it down a certain distance. And I'm just eyeballing this right now, guys. I don't really care exactly where it goes, but you can see I've got a little vent there where airflow can happen, which is good. Okay, now I'm going to orbit around to the front here. What did I forget to do? If I got it where I want it, I need to make it a component, right? But actually, what I want to do before I finalize this component is measure it. So here's your tape measure tool. So if you click down here, and then that first one right there, that's your tape measure tool. The keyboard shortcut is T for tape measure. I want to measure how big my piece is. And it says it's 4 7/8. I won't get into fine-tuning your measurements right now, actually. So, but what I do want to do is make that a full inch. Okay, so or a round number inch. So I'm going to click on 5 inches, and it's going to give me a guide point. You see that little small dot right there? It's a guide point. So I'll talk more about that in a second. What I'm going to do is use my push-pull tool to take this plane to that guide point. So if you hover over a guide point, it will inference there. Same thing with an edge. If you were to hover over an edge or a plane, it will inference to that plane. So now I'm going to use my select tool, triple click. Make sure you triple click and not double click. Oh, that's something I see people do. That's something I see students accidentally do. So you think you triple click, but you only double click. Look at that. So that's a double click. You see it selects everything in the 2-dimensional space attached to wherever you double clicked. But you want all 3 dimensions to be selected. So make sure you triple click like this. And you can go slowly. You can go 1, 2, 3. You don't have to like triple click like you're playing a video game or something. Now right click on it and come down to make component. Okay. Now there you go. That's half the roof done. Okay, how do we do the other half of the roof, Mr. Broadway? Well, very similarly to what you did a moment ago, make sure that, I don't think it matters necessarily, but make sure you don't have a component selected when you begin, because it's actually kind of confusing to look at. Okay, so here I just orbited around to the other side, but instead of starting here at that other piece, we're going to start up here because we want those 2 roof pieces to overlap. So I did my first click, come down this direction, and now anywhere in here where you see that green rectangle, as long as you're on the edge of your other piece, not on this edge, that's not where we want to be. We want to be all the way on the extreme edge. Click there. Okay, now I know that doesn't look like a roof piece yet. So select your push-pull tool and come out this direction. Remember, it's 1/2 inch. So here's another way to write that, 1/2, and then press enter. Okay. So now before we do the other push-pull piece, we got to pull this piece down right here. Let's go ahead and pull up the tape measure tool again. And by the way I'm orbiting around right like that so easily, a lot of times you'll have to press O to orbit. But if you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, you can click in on that scroll wheel, hold in on that scroll wheel, and it'll take you into orbit mode like that. That's the way I've been orbiting around. If you don't have that, then you'll have to press O on your keyboard and then orbit, or come down here to your orbit tool. So anyways, I'm going to go back to my tape measure tool. I want to measure exactly how far it is from this peak now to here. It should be 5.5. All right, so I haven't clicked anything. I haven't made a second click yet, okay? If you make a second click with the tape measure tool, it will make a guide point. So what I want to do actually is make a guide point on this side that's the same length. So we're going to come back, come down this way, 5.5. And so I can either make sure that, oh, look at that. There we go. You see it's making a perfect right triangle here. So I'm going to go ahead and click there. If it doesn't happen for you like that, then you could click up here and move in that direction and then just make sure your mouse doesn't slip around like mine is right now. My cord is pulling my mouse all around. So you could click here, move in this direction, and then type in 5.5 or 5.5, and it will make that guide point down there for you. Well, why do we make that guide point? Because now I have a place with my push-pull tool. Here we go. Now I have a place to actually bring the edge of that roof down to, and I know that the two edges are going to be equal on the left and the right. So now using my select tool, triple click, make a component. Okay. All right. Now we need one more component piece, the floor underneath. And if you are in orbit mode and you double click, it will center on the area you double clicked on, which is helpful. Okay, so now there's two options that you could use to put that bottom piece in. We can either put the bottom piece that covers all these edges, the thicknesses of those pieces of wood, or we can recess it up inside. And it's honestly up to you how you want to do it. I think what I'll do is the easier way to build, when we're actually going to build this in class, we could do it to cover the whole bottom, if you will, not recessed, and that's because it'll be the same thickness as the material already is, or not the same thickness, but the same width. So I'm going to click here, and then drag to the opposite corner because it's a rectangle after all. So there's not really much to see because there's already edges there. But if you clicked release, okay, move your mouse and then make your second click there, it's going to actually cover up everything. Okay, so this is, I will admit that this is a confusing look because you just made a plane, but remember that plane has no thickness yet. So don't forget to click on your push-pull tool, click on this plane, drag it down this direction, exactly 1/2 inch, because that's your material thickness, so 0.5, and then press enter. And then please don't forget, make it a component. Very important step to always make those a component. Okay, now we're going to come back out to the front. We're almost done. Whoops, sorry. I keep scrolling the wrong way because it's different on this computer. Okay, so we're just going to look at the front here. Actually, we're going to look at the front so we can also see this back edge right there. I want to be able to see that. And I want to show you guys two good reasons right now why it's important to make components, okay? So first thing is you can hide things easily. So say I want to hide this wall. So I'm going to select it with my select tool. Then I'm going to right click and come over here to hide. So it looks like it deletes that piece, but it's actually just hidden. So now I can kind of see inside the birdhouse. I'll show you how to unhide later. Now the next thing we need to do is edit a component. And this is an important step for our process. So I'm going to edit this piece. So I can start editing two ways. I can either double click, which is probably the easier way, or you could right click on the component and say edit component. Okay, either way, here we are, we're editing the component. Now, this is important that you make sure that you edit the component before you start trying to take out the hole. You know, we have to drill 2 holes in this piece of wood. We have to drill a hole for the birds to go through, and then we have to drill a hole for our dowel to go in. So, in order to do that, we actually have to edit the component. Now, where do we drill the hole? Okay, it's just a blank space right now. Well, we will in a second use this circle tool, but we don't know where to put the circle. So this is where we actually need to measure some stuff. So bring up your tape measure tool, and I'm going to show you guys how to add guide lines. So we talked a second ago about how to add guide points. To add a guide point, you're going to measure from a corner like this. And I just measure out a certain direction. It'll put like a little point, like that dot over there. Okay, I'm going to undo that because that's not what I want. Now to make a guide line, it's slightly different. You're going to start on an edge. So you see I'm on an edge right now. I'm going to make a single click. I'm going to drag in this direction, and I'm going to find the center. The center is here at 2 3/4. So now I'm going to make my second click. If you measure back from the other direction, it'll be the same, 2 3/4. That's how you know you're in the center, by the way. That's an old woodworker's trick. Okay, so then you're going to measure from the bottom, and I'm not going to measure from the intersection. I'm just going to measure from somewhere in the middle of that line, because SketchUp tends to work better with me by giving me this guideline. So I'm looking for this dotted line that goes across the face of the wood. Okay, and now how high up you come doesn't really matter to me right now. You can come up, I'm just going to go to 4 3/4. I'm not going to type in any measurements. I'm just going to make my second click. And then this one needs to be pretty much, a little bit lower. Oh dear. Okay, so you see, okay, so right now I'm going to teach another trick. You want to hit on the up arrow key on your keyboard, and that's going to lock you onto the blue axis. Because right now, I don't know if you could notice, but my SketchUp was having trouble figuring out where I wanted to go. That's the inferencing engine that's built into SketchUp. If you tell it what axis you are trying to lock it to, in this case, the blue axis or the vertical axis, you can tell it that by using your arrow keys on your keyboard. So if you were to do to the right, it would lock you to the red axis. If you were to do to the left, it would lock you to the green axis, which isn't really relevant here. But if you lock it to the blue axis, it's going to know that you need to go up like this. All right, so let's just go to some spot in this area. Again, I don't care exactly where. I'm just going to go at 2 7/8. Okay, so those 3 guidelines are now on the face in this component. And that means if you need to erase them, you'll have to edit this component again. But let's go over now to our circle tool. Now the circle, again, we're going to do a click and release right here on this intersection. It's easy to inference to an intersection like that. Now I'm going to move out a certain distance. I'm going to go to 1 inch right now, and that's a radius, not a diameter, but a radius. So the overall diameter will be 2 inches, but the radius is 1 inch. I'm going to make my second click. Since I already have my circle tool out, I'm going to come down here and make this click as well, and we'll probably use a 1/2 inch dowel. So that's a radius of 1/4 of an inch. So if you want to type in 1/4 of an inch, you can, or you can just kind of find it by moving your mouse around. And there it says 1/4 of an inch down there in the dimensioning box. So I'm going to click again, and there I've got 1/4 of an inch. Okay. So I've got 2 circles now that are on the face, but what I need are actually 2 holes. So what do you think we need to use? The old push-pull. So bring up your push-pull tool. And now there's 2 ways to do this. I'll show you both ways. First way, so what we're going to do is click in the area that we just made a circle on, right? And you see it shades in that area. So I want to do a single click and release. Now if I pulled it out that way, it'd make like a protrusion. But what we want to do is actually push it away from us. Now, look, if we go too far, it'll make the protrusion out the back. But of course, that's not what we want, right? We want it to be deleted. We want this whole area to be gone back to 0. There's 2 ways to do this. Well, I know what the thickness of my wood is, so I could type in, and that's what I'll do now, 0.5, and then press enter. And you see it completely goes away, and I can see through, right? Well, there's a faster way to do it, and I'll show you down here on this bottom circle. Again, click and release. And now I'm just going to drag my pointer back here to that edge. You see where it turns a red square and it says on edge? I'm going to click there, and as I orbit around, just to prove to you, look there. I made a hole that goes all the way through. Okay. Now I want to go ahead and get my select tool, and we can, at this point, no, not at this point. We'll wait to delete those guides, because I do need the guides for one more thing. So don't delete your guides, especially these guides, okay? But what we do need to do is make sure that we click out and that we kind of deselect that piece, okay? We're not editing this piece, right? We want to not edit this piece. That piece is done, because what we're going to do now is add a dowel. And so think about it. The dowel is a different piece of wood, right? This circular piece of wood that the birds are going to sit on. It's a different piece of wood. But we will need our circle tool. So pull up your circle tool and go back to this intersection. You see mine wants to be red. I don't want it to be red. I want it to be green. So if I needed to lock it into green, I could press the left arrow key. And now I'm going to make it this exact radius, 1/4 of an inch from the center to there. And you see it's inferencing right now. It says in point in component 1. We're not in component 1 right now, but we can still see component 1. So I'm going to go ahead and make my second click there. And that's what you need to see right there, that type of circle right there. Now we have to use our push-pull tool. So I'm going to select that on my keyboard shortcut, and I'm going to select that circle, and I'm going to pull it out. I don't really care how far out it comes, but make your second click, and make sure you do this. This is important. Orbit around that wall. Zoom in if you need to. Keep orbiting so you can see the back side of what you just did. Now look, you see the hole that we made is completely empty right there. So we're going to click, and we're going to fill that hole up with the dowel. And how far do we go? Look what I'm doing here. I'm going to inference to the face in component 1. All right, so that's how deep or how far backward I need that to come. And if you look down there in the bottom right, it says distance is 1/2 inch because that's the thickness of the wood. Okay, hopefully you're getting how that works. Now I'm going to make my second click. So now that's locked in place. Okay, now I'm going to zoom back out of here, rotate back to the front. Now, what's the one thing I need to do with this piece before I move on? Look, what do I need to do? Triple click, selects everything that isn't, that hasn't been made a component that's attached to where I triple clicked. And then I need to make it a component. You can name that perch if you wanted to. Okay, now we are basically done, right? We've actually modeled everything. So what we need to do now is make it look nice. Come over here to where these glasses are. Right over here. I'm going to hit this button that says delete all guides, and all my dotted line guides go away. That's good. I'm going to drag this over here where I can kind of see everything. What about this wall that I hid? Well, if you look up here under unhide, we're going to unhide all. And pops back into view. Okay, so I like this view of your birdhouse like this, so we can kind of see all see the birdhouse in 3 different dimensions. Okay, and so not just from the front like that, but from the kind of the top looking down. I can see the roof, I can see the side and the front. And I want you to do one more thing before you turn this in. Click on material, and then select a material. I don't care what it is, honestly. It can be roof, it can be wood. I just saw the word roofing. It can be, here, let's use some roofing. Why not? Let's put a nice Spanish arabesque looking tile on the roof. How do you like that? Here's some wood shake on the top. Oh, here's some slate. Okay, it doesn't matter what you use. And then, just play with this. Make it look pretty or whatever. You can make the whole thing pink. I don't care. All right, so we're going to make a wood look for the side. How about we make the perch just, look like water? That'll really confuse the birds. Okay, I didn't get the side over here. Now, here's another good reason, by the way, guys, to make components. Because if I had not made these components, then when I clicked here, it would just make that plane look like this weird tile. But because I made the whole thing a component, then when I click it, it makes all 3 sides have that material. Okay, now I'm done. I've modeled my birdhouse. I've got all the components correct. I've got some material on the component, and now it says on face in component 1 is just stuck on my screen for some reason. All right, let's do 2 more things. Let's save this. Let's title it and save it. So if you click on the word untitled, you can title this. What I want you to do is put your name, not my name, your name, and then birdhouse lesson. Later, you'll model your actual unique birdhouse. But this was a lesson that you copied. So just say birdhouse lesson, and then you're going to have to save it somewhere. It's going to ask you where you want to save it. Well, here's my Google Drive, and I'll tell you what, I'll save it to my birdhouse folder. And one more thing, how do you turn it in? Oh, well, the name already exists. Uh-oh, here come my kids. Hey, not right now, I'm recording. All right, so Birdhouse 2, just a unique name. And I'm going to save it over here in this folder. 5.7. Close the door, please. And then I'm going to click up here. This is how you turn in. Come over here to export. Export as a PNG. Do not export as an STL, and do not hit the download button, because that will download the actual SketchUp file to your computer. That's not what I want to see. What I want to see is just a picture of it. So click on this button, PNG, and it's going to bring up what looks kind of like a print window. But you can zoom in here, you can orbit around, you can hold down shift and drag, okay? Or you can hit one of these buttons up here to get um, one of the default views. Okay, so go ahead and pick one of these. Like I think actually this one right here is nice. And then hit the export button. We don't need to see that message. Okay, so it's actually a really small file that it's going to create and download to your actual hard drive. And you'll see that it's there in your downloads folder, birdhouse2.png. And then this is a SketchUp. I'm sorry, this is in Schoology. So I don't know if I have Schoology open on my computer right now. Hopefully I do. You can come over here to Schoology and then just upload that file to the course. So I'll just click on my course over here. So it should, you should see the lesson. I don't, know exactly what it looks like in your Schoology at this particular moment. I made this video here in 2020, so it might look different, but you'll see over here inside this assignment, it says submissions. You can click on that, and then you'll be able to submit it. And I can't show you because I'm in teacher view, but it's the little button. It's when you click submit, it is right there on the dialog window. There's a little button that's for file upload, okay? And then you'll just upload that. It should be in your downloads folder on your computer, okay? So that's it. That's all you got to do. Thanks, guys. Email me if you have any questions or talk to me in class. All right, bye-bye.